information about it.
And in case Danny Cruz is too modest, he's one of the amazing performers this summer. So make sure you hear his recital.
Thanks for the plug.
Hello, Opophiles! Many of you already know about the International Double Read Society and the conference that is held each summer. And I've been spamming social media about the performance that I'm going to be putting on this summer in Boulder. Thank you guys so much for those of you who supported my Kickstarter. It has been an amazing journey and I'm so excited for it to continue. I was lucky enough to interview Peter Cooper, who along with Yoshi Ishikawa is going to be hosting the 51st conference in Boulder this summer. And I just thought it was a really good opportunity for especially young students to learn about what the conference is about, what the International Double Read Society is trying to do to promote the community of double read players. And yeah, I didn't know what the society was until I was in college, and I just think it's a really great opportunity to learn. I'm super excited to learn and see a lot of great performers do their thing. So I just really wanted you guys to hear from one of the hosts themselves. If these videos are useful to you, don't forget to like and subscribe and play beautifully. We're here today with the great Peter Cooper, who's a professor of oboe at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and also the principal oboist of the Colorado Symphony, who is hosting IDRS conference number 51 in Boulder, Colorado this summer.
That's right.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
Sweet. So can you tell us a little bit about what's different about this conference from other conferences?
Well, one thing that's different is that it's existing. We've had to cancel. The Iowa conference in 2020 was unfortunately canceled, and then CU was supposed to host the conference in 2021, and that was canceled as well. So the fact that this is actually existing and happening is absolutely great. And so that's one thing. Another thing that really makes this conference different is our incredible push for diversity. I know other conferences have as well. I'm not trying to denigrate them at all, but we have, just for example, 57% of the performers in our conference are women. And we have 3 oboe concertos written by women, performed by women, being performed at this conference. We have Titus Underwood, who's a Black American oboist who's playing a composer, Ulysses Kay, who is also a Black American composer. So that's kind of an unusual thing. He'll be leading off the whole conference. The first gala concert, he's the first concerto on the first concert. And there's tremendous numbers of new works written by women, written by composers, underrepresented composers. There's tremendous new repertoire being performed at this conference. It's not just the Hindemith Sonata and the Poulenc Sonata. It's a lot of fascinating stuff, and we have a tremendous array of master classes. Again, from lots of genders and lots of backgrounds. So we're really trying to make this the most inclusive conference ever.
My first, and actually the only other conference I've been to, was in Oklahoma, and I met some of my best friends there when I was an undergraduate. I wasn't thinking very hard about what the purpose of these conferences were, but I think Peter Cooper put it very succinctly.
One of the best purposes of these conferences, I think, is to inspire young people. And yes, it's nice for us older people to meet old friends and see former students and colleagues, things like that. But I think that the crucial thing is to provide the inspirational catalyst for a young kid. I remember my first IDRS conference I went to was when I was 18 years old. It was in Evansville, Indiana. And I still remember certain things from that conference. I heard Lila Storch play a recital. Lila Storch is still alive, around 101 now, something like that. And she's, I think, the last surviving Tabuteau student, and the only prominent woman, maybe the only woman that he taught. And she played a recital that was magnificent. And I was so taken by her command of the instrument and her colors and the intimacy with which she played it, the delicacy. And all these years later, decades and decades later, I'm still inspired by that. And I'm hoping, just there was one lecture I remember going to that I quote that lecture to my students to this day. And that was, again, I mean, I can say it was 1977, that conference. So I hope that we can provide those kinds of inspirational aha moments for young people this year and have people say, wow, I got so energized, so jazzed, so psyched by the CU IDRS conference.
Did you know that I was super interested in teaching the oboe? Wait, you are? Yeah. And the conference is a great way for students to learn, but also for educators to learn about teaching and access and some barriers to overcome and how to get the instrument into more hands of more learners.
And, one of the keys to building diversity, it's nice that we are highlighting those that are from diverse backgrounds that already are accomplished instrumentalists and artists. But the secret, of course, is to build young people, to present more opportunities for young people from varied backgrounds to learn instruments, to get instruction, and to have some kind of what I think is crucial, some kind of positive peer pressure to exceed in music. I think that's crucial. I was in a great band program in high school, surrounded by lots and lots of serious music students, and there was a peer pressure to exceed and do well. And you were valued, you weren't denigrated for being a music student. And so I think we have to find ways to do that. And I know there's we have a DEI workshop scheduled at the conference where people can learn ways to introduce instruments, introduce instruction, overcome obstacles and traditional barriers that we've had. And I'm really glad we're able to provide that for everybody.
That's awesome. I'm super excited to see it all come to life.
Yeah.
It'd be great. The recent pandemic and political situation has led to a lot of international slowing down as far as communication and globalization. How can we expect the international aspect of the conference to continue during the conference in Boulder?
Well, we have a number of fabulous European artists that are coming here for the conference. In the oboes, we have Viola Wilmsen, who's a young woman who's principal oboe in the Deutsche Symphony Orchestra, first prize winner of the Tokyo oboe competition. She's coming to play a concerto. Sophie Devro, the principal bassoonist of the Vienna Philharmonic, is coming. Gordon Hunt is coming to play a recital and give a masterclass. We have, and there are others from Europe as well. We have people from South America coming, Central America coming. Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of people from Asia. I think the pandemic restrictions in Asia are such that there's a long quarantine period, at least especially there was a long quarantine period when the proposals were due last December. And consequently, I think a lot of people were afraid to commit because they were afraid how difficult and expensive it would be to go home. I know one Taiwanese oboist who was really excited to come here said she just could not afford the quarantine, the time and expense of the quarantine on her return to Taiwan. So she had to cancel. So that's a shame, but we do have quite a number of Asian performers that live here in the United States or Europe or were born here. Mm-hmm. So we just don't have a contingent like we usually do from China, from Japan, from Korea, from Taiwan, places like that. Thailand, Singapore, we don't have that so much this year, unfortunately.
It's good that the conference still is able to maintain its international presence. However.
Absolutely, it is. Yes.
How about the vendors? They're still bringing in vendors from?
Yep, we have oboe manufacturers from France, from England. We have from Germany. So I think we will have a similar number of vendors to normal conferences with lots of instruments to try. And I think we have at this point 55 vendors coming.
Do you have any quick tips for people coming in from not high altitude to have a good experience read-wise?
Absolutely. I mean, I have a sheet that I wrote out for potential University of Colorado oboe students. I wrote it out for them, and it's published on the IDRS website. But the basic gist of it is that you cannot expect reeds made at sea level in humid climates to work in Colorado. Two things happen to reeds as you go up in altitude. One is the opening gets smaller, and the other is the reeds don't vibrate as much. So if you take a normal, in your case, Texas reed, and bring it up to Colorado, you will find it's more closed and more sharp. The problem, and not vibrating as much. And if you scrape it to get it to vibrate more, it'll even get more closed. So generally, when people bring sea level reeds up to altitude and they try to play on them, they find they sound thinner and brighter and sharper than they did at home. So the secret is to play on smaller diameter tube cane, which gives larger openings. So if I was in sea level, I would use 10 to 10.5 cane in diameter for oboe reeds, and at this altitude, I use 9.5 to 10. So that extra 0.5 millimeter gives slightly larger openings, and it allows me to have a similar opening to what I would have at sea level.
Awesome.
Because I don't want a bigger opening here than I have at sea level. I want the same size. In order to get the same size opening, you need a different size piece of cane.
Differently, one of which is you have to look for smaller diameter cane. So that's always a fun challenge, because as we all know, sometimes you order a batch of cane and none of the pieces are the diameter that you ordered.
The other issue, which I think is really important, is that you need vibrant cane, and vibrant cane tends to be harder cane. It's possible to have a piece of cane that's too hard, of course, but generally speaking, most cane is too soft rather than too hard. So I would say a strong piece of vibrant cane that's gouges out really smoothly and doesn't look grainy and has resilience, that's your best bet in having a reed that will work in Colorado.
We're super excited to see all the amazing performers and vendors and just ecosystem that's going to emerge in Colorado this summer. Thank you so much for letting us know information about it.
And in case Danny Cruz is too modest, he's one of the amazing performers this summer. So make sure you hear his recital.
Thanks for the plug.